Derby is everything. The Derby combines all aspects of, I think, what racing is, sport is, and what Americana is.
It's an experience that you cannot feel it in any other race.
The whole world knows where is Kentucky Derby.
It's a feeling of going to a college football game, you know, that excitement, and there's so much energy.
It's sort of everything that racing's about.
People that don't pay any attention to racing the rest of the year will watch the Kentucky Derby.
Everybody watches the Kentucky Derby. You know, they don't remember who wins the race, probably.
No, there certainly is no event in America that has the cachet, the history, the emotion, the feeling of the Kentucky Derby.
It's what you endeavor upon as soon as you figure out you want to do this.
I think all the trainers, every trainer, every owner want to win the race.
If somebody tells you they don't want to win the Derby, they're lying to you.
For anybody that grew up thinking about or entertaining the thought of being involved in racing, the Derby has to be in the forefront of your mind.
I think it's the greatest sporting event there is. I mean, it's just amazing. There's just so much beauty in it. I mean, you have the horses, the colors, I mean, the people. I mean, it's just probably the best sporting event to go to.
When I went to Churchill Downs and saw the Twin Spires and stood on the racetrack and stood where the gate is, and it was wow.
I know people that haven't got a clue about racing. But the two things they always seem to know, Kentucky Derby and Bill Shoemaker.
Anytime you mention Kentucky, people say, oh yeah, the Kentucky Derby.
I was sitting on the corner of the coffee table, and Secretariat won it. And I was just with my grandmother at the time. I told my grandmother, so I'm going to win that race one day.
That used to be the big thing in our house, that we'd all get together and watch the Kentucky Derby.
Spanish Chestnut breaking from post 13. Was on the TV every year.
Right there in the middle of the pack, he's 10th.
Go for Gin was the first one that I remember.
It's Go for Gin!
The best horse I ever saw run is Secretariat.
Coach, my idol was Lafitte Pincay.
The first time I heard about the Kentucky Derby, I remember there was Lucky Debonair with Bill Shoemaker. When I became a jockey, that was my dream. Maybe someday it would be great just to ride in it.
I remember Shoemaker winning with Ferdinand, and you know, winning the race. Beautiful, beautiful. I remember exactly how it happened.
My first introduction was when my favorite horse of all time, Native Dancer, didn't win. That was my first, you know, that was the first time I understood what the Kentucky Derby really was.
North Star holds on and is whipped under the wire to win by a head over Native Dancer.
One of the ones I remember very well, there was a horse named Tommy Lee. Shoemaker was riding him. There was another horse named Sword Dancer, and they were coming down the stretch head and head, and they bumped right about the 16th pole. I think Shoemaker, if he were here today, would agree that helped him win the Kentucky Derby.
Sword Dancer's in front, but Tommy Lee comes on again. And as they hit the wire, Tommy Lee wins by a nose.
Elgato is my favorite. He's the one that I won my first Derby with. The Derby made him a great horse in my eyes, but he peaked at the right time for the Derby, and I'm glad he did.
In the final furlong, Gato del Sol is in front.
The first Kentucky Derby that I called at Churchill Downs was Affirmed and Aladar. So, I mean, how can that not be my favorite? 1978, Affirmed and Aladar hook up, and they hit the top of the stretch, and here's Affirmed with Steve Coffin in front. Here comes Aladar flying up on the outside, and it was just, and I'm sitting there calling it that, probably after all these years, is still my favorite Derby because it was so special to me.
When you wake up on Derby Day, you know you're about to go work at the single most important sporting event in the world.
Standing on the backside, seeing the Twin Spires, you get it all. It just kind of sinks in, and you feel like, now I know why I'm here.
That morning, it's dark. You go out there, you want to take him and track him. You know, you get your last chance to see what he feels like, and you take him out there, and they come off the track, and you know, if they're full of energy, you feel good about it.
Go out in the back, stand around, you know, watch everybody whispering to each other, there's a Derby horse, there's a Derby horse.
I think if you've had Derby fever before, being a part of the morning scene will definitely heighten that feeling and bring it to new levels.
You know you have to get up early Saturday morning to beat the crowd, to see the races.
I think if it was a school day, they'd declare a state holiday and the schools would be out.
The pomp and circumstance of the Derby is unbelievable because it's palpable. You can feel the excitement building as the day goes.
I've ridden horses on Derby Day that weren't involved in the Kentucky Derby, and they still, to today, have run the race of their life because of the crowd, because of the fanfare.
It was an amazing feeling. I mean, just walking over with all the people looking at you and all the horses and circling on the backside before they let you over with all the horses around you. I mean, it's really an amazing thing.
You go in the paddock, you saddle your horse, and then you got to fight your way to the, so it's quite an exciting feeling.
It looks like someone disturbed an ant pile. You know, there's just people everywhere.
The hordes of people lined up when you're walking just before you get to the track, and they're all screaming, yelling, go get him, Bob, and you've got goosebumps, and you're all like, you feel like you're going to battle, you know?
The time before the Derby is really special because you've got 20 horses, which means you've got 20 trainers, which means you've got, gosh only knows how many owners, but at that point in time, they've got a chance to win the Kentucky Derby.
It's one very intense day. I mean, this is hallowed ground. This is it.
It's just the electricity in the air when they come on out onto the track is unbelievable. Just walking, and you can see it both sides. It's just the crowd just lift, you know, it's just lift you, and just feel like you're in the air.
The roar of the crowd, there's no crowd that moves to those levels. Not in a Final Four, not in a Super Bowl, there's nothing like it. I've been to those places, and when that last horse enters the starting gate, the roar of the crowd will actually lift the horses off their feet.
Of course, you're excited. You got all the butterflies running down your stomach and all that great energy that you feel in this kind of race. It's very special.
Before the race, I never was nervous or kind of worried about something. I never did.
It's a long day, it's focused, go over the race in your head a few times on what you think's gonna happen. And then after you got all that planned, then you throw all that out the window and you go out there and you just ride the race.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
As soon as you say they're off, when you say they're off, and even up in a soundproof announcer's booth, you hear the crowd just roar.
What I try to do is, and I'm still trying to do, is try to bring to America what it really feels like to be there.
The whole state gets caught up in it.
It was very exciting. It was so crowded, and it was probably one of the most exciting sports events I've ever been to.
It's like a festival, you know. I mean, everybody wants to look great, and everybody wants to have the best hat and the best dress, and it's really nice.
It's just one huge party, Derby week, and it, you know, just comes to an absolute climax with the Derby.
Oh, get the bubbles out, get the champagne out. We will cork a top or two.
A couple years ago, I went to all of them afterwards. I'd say that. We had a wonderful time.
Every year they get better and better.
Just wouldn't believe the Derby parties.
The Kentucky Derby party carried over from the first Saturday in May to the first Sunday in May. So
for me, or I think for the participants, it's not party time unless you actually come home with that trophy.
I saw kind of actors and singers, and you know, it's a great day for everybody.
And the infield. Oh, man, the infield.
Well, the infield's a little too crazy, so I've always tried to stay away from being in the infield.
It's a little wild in the infield. I walked in and kind of walked out. It was a little more of the party life than what I'm used to.
I walked out there one time. It's scary. It's really, really scary.
When you look in the stands and you see the infield, and you know that 90% of the people there are not going to be able to see the race, you know.
One year, I remember we're sitting in a van trying to get to the airport with my wife and kids, and they started bringing people out of the infield. What they actually did was, as people would get arrested during the day, they'd lock them up in holding pens until they take them out after the last race. And here are all these people coming out in shackles, and my kids' eyes were like as big as tennis balls going, wow, look at this. It must have been over 100 people that were getting taken away. So I think people go there and have a good time and maybe overdo it a little bit, but it's you know, the Derby's an American experience.
In the earlier days, I should say, if you had a good pair of binoculars, I can't describe to you what you could see out there. You couldn't put it on. I mean, you could see just about everything out there.
I've never been out there. I'd be scared to go out there, to tell you the truth. It looks pretty wicked out there. But they look like they're having a lot of fun on TV anyway.
The crowd is pretty wild, and the infield crowd is definitely out of hand.
I'll just tell you the most unusual thing that I ever heard of. They found a man's artificial leg the next day. He came back to Churchill Downs the next day wanting to know if they found his artificial leg, and they said, yes, sir, here it is. So how drunk do you have to be to forget your artificial leg?
It's probably the only sporting event in the world where fashion matters.
The day of the Kentucky Derby, and you see all these people all dressed up, and all the women come to the track with all the hats.
On a yearly basis, continual basis, the single most important fashion statement in American history is the Derby hat.
There's so much fun just to watch them, how they dress and how, you know, to go to the Kentucky Derby, and they have so much fun.
It's like a festival, you know. I mean, everybody wants to look great, and everybody wants to have the best hat and the best dress, and it's really nice to see all the people get so up to it, you know, and it's really an event.
I was on the phone with a TWA reservationist, and she said, oh, you're going to Kentucky, you're going to the Derby? I said, yes, I am. She goes, oh, I love the Derby. I said, oh, do you watch? She goes, yeah, I just watch for the hats and what the ladies are wearing. And at that point, I thought to myself, you know what? This really isn't necessarily always about just the actual sport or the race. This is about the environment.
575.
You know, mint juleps are a tradition, a big part of the Kentucky Derby experience. All it is a little bourbon over some ice with a sprig of mint and some sugar in there. That's what a mint julep is.
Something about the idea of bourbon and mint just doesn't seem very appealing to me.
They're horrible tasting, that's the best I can tell you.
I'm not a big fan of a mint julep. A little glass of Cabernet is more my style.
They taste pretty good, actually. You know, I think they're pretty good, but I'd rather have something not as strong.
You couldn't get one down me if you held me down, because they're terrible tasting.
That's the one that $1,000 or something? The shot?
Yeah, the ones at the track are okay, but you know, when you get the good stuff, it kind of ruins it, you know.
They're pretty tasty.
I love them, but don't have them on Kentucky Derby Day.
Like the fifth one, they get even better.
I've literally seen a guy couldn't stand on his feet, ordered another mint julep and got it. Was laying there, toasted, tanked, and actually had a $10 bill in his hand, asking for another drink and got it.
It is the most chilling, thrilling, amazing. I started crying. I didn't even know why. I'm not from Kentucky. I had tears in my eye. It was like, you know, just I get chills thinking about it now.
When I hear my old Kentucky home, it brings back the memories.
It's so beautiful, you know, and everybody sings it, and it's you get a lot of emotion.
Just get the chills every time, you know.
I mean, hundreds and thousands of people there, and when I started singing my old Kentucky home, it was an experience that I never in my life felt before.
You just feel the kind of sense of history and that it's all a part of the Derby experience, and then how much the crowd gets into it. And it's almost like with hushed tones that people sing along, and you know, for over 100,000 people, that's a pretty amazing thing.
The song is a beautiful song, and to hear people sing it on the track that day, it sends chills up your spine.
Oh, that's when everybody chokes up, especially if you're from Kentucky. I do it every time they play it, even if I'm not there.
It is the most chilling, thrilling, amazing. You know, I started crying. I didn't even know why. I'm not from Kentucky. Tears in my eye. It was like, you know, just I get chills thinking about it now.
I was so focused, man. I honestly, I was just paying attention to my horse, what was going on around me, and I really wasn't listening, you know, to the words. And then all of a sudden, the song's over, and you just hear this roar, man, and then, of course, all the horses start acting up.
I was feeling like I had a chance. You know, I had a chance.
The next quarter of a mile is a flash reel. It's just a video clip of my life.
You just can't describe the feeling.
Wow, man, I can't believe it. I just won a Kentucky Derby.
And that's the greatest thrill you can get in racing. You know, after I won the Derby with Alice Sheba, I got up on the interview with Dick McKay and cried like a darn baby up there. You know, he mentioned my father, and I just ended up crying like a baby. It's just, and to this day, when I would watch the rerun of Alice Sheba, I still get goosebumps and tears in my eyes.
Giacomo, don't get mad, late charge on the far outside, coming down to the finish.
His father was the favorite. You know, I rode his father. It was his only bad race, you know. God, if I ever thought you were going to win a Derby, that was it. All he had to do was break, and for some reason that day he just didn't. Didn't show up. You know, he kind of got away a little slow, got knocked around, and was never there. You know.
When Giacomo was getting ready for the Kentucky Derby, we came out of the Santa Anita Derby in really good shape, and you know, he just trained very well and very focused for the Kentucky Derby.
As far as I was concerned, he should have been one of the favorites. I thought he was really overlooked. I think the biggest reason was because he didn't win one of the preps going into the Derby. So I knew he was going to run very well, extremely well. I just didn't know where that was going to put us. We had to wait and run the race and see what happened.
I saw his shadow roll sort of pop out from behind horses, and then I thought, wow, here he comes. And I thought, well, you know, maybe we're going to be third. And then, you know, he went by me, and I didn't realize there was more track, and I said, oh, wow.
Giacomo, a fleet edge. It's a three-horse photo finish, and on the wire, it's Giacomo.
The exercise rider, Frankie, grabbed a hold of me. We started jumping up and down. We won, boss, and it was like disbelief.
And to come back and win it on his son, it was kind of like we redeemed him, you know. It was pretty cool.
Usaichi Pegasus is fifth at this point, more than ready at the rail. Down the stretch they come in the Derby.
It was like being lost for years. I'm cornering for home. I feel like I'm going to win the race. And all of a sudden you see your mom, and she's standing a quarter of a mile from you. You take off running. Hitting the wire is when you grasp.
Here's the finish. Usaichi Pegasus wins it by a length and a half.
It's like being reunited with your mom after being lost.
Here comes Monarcos under a heavy drive on the far outside.
I know I was going to win the Derby because how he was finished, I know nobody was, you know, can stop me. So I know I was going to win.
Who sweeps to the lead? He's pulling away by 2. He's pulling away by 3. Jorge Chavez and Monarcos have won the Kentucky Derby.
When the first time you do it, I mean, I don't know, you won or that was a dream. But it take you like probably 3 or 4 days or 5 days to realize you did it.
123 years and you don't get a better race than this.
We had a horse named Captain Bodgett, Team Valor, the partnership that I'm in, and he went back and had won the Florida Derby, won the Wood Memorial, and I really thought that he had a really good chance to win. It was a very, very tough field of horses. Silver Charm was in there, Free House, Pulpit. It was a great field.
I'd just gotten beat with Cavanier a nose the year before, and that was just, it lasted a year.
And Silver Charm is on the inside, and here comes Alex Solis in our colors, moving up, right to get in front to Silver Charm.
And watching Silver Charm come down the stretch, you know, you're thinking Derby, but you're not mentally prepared for it. And all of a sudden, I see this horse coming on the outside, and I thought, oh my God, I can't get beat this time, you know.
And he looks like he's going on by, and for 1 second, I'm thinking, I've won the Kentucky Derby.
There's something about Silver Charm. I knew if he saw that horse, he would dig in.
It's Captain Bodgett on the outside. Silver Charm at the rail. Those two to the wire. Here's the finish. Silver Charm by a neck.
You feel like your whole life that you worked for it, all your life, you feel this is my reward. You know, I've worked so hard, I've been a good person, now I'm rewarded with a Kentucky Derby.
And for me, that memory of winning the Derby, even for 1 second, far exceeds the disappointment that I had when the realization set in that I really didn't win the Kentucky Derby.
When you see him coming down the stretch, there's not a better feeling in the world, and that's the only race that really does it to me.
That's the highest thing you can get as a rider, as a trainer, as an owner.
And that's what we all go for. You know, every jockey, every trainer, every owner, grooms. That's our dream.
And the best 2 minutes in sports.
It's an amazing thing. It's magic.
For me, it's excitement, and I mean, it's tradition.
It's a chance of a lifetime and a lifetime of chance.
The racing world's going to change. You don't know for the good or for the bad, but it's going to change.
It's like the Grand Canyon. The only way that you can really appreciate the Grand Canyon is to stand there and be awed by it in all of its bigness and all of its beauty. The Derby and the first Saturday in May in Louisville at Churchill Downs is the exact same thing. To fully get it, you have to stand there and sort of get it with all your senses.
Oh, the sun shines bright
in my old Kentucky home.
I wouldn't even attempt it. Sidewalks in New York, maybe.
El sol brilla.
The corn tops ripe, and I don't know the words right here.
I couldn't carry a tune in a 5-gallon drum. I apologize.
Okay. The young folks roll on the little cabin floor.
I don't know any more words right now.
En el viejo Kentucky, en la casa viejo de Kentucky.
In my old Kentucky home, good night.